Okay, welcome back to another Talking Through Spreads. This time it is my Fall Equinox Bare Branches spread. The Equinox was yesterday. I pulled this for myself, and so I thought I'd take a little bit of time to kind of talk through it. If you'll notice the tank top, it's funny, I went back to look at my summer solstice reading, and I was wearing a full-on hooded sweatshirt because that's what the weather was like that day. Well, today it's almost 90 degrees here, and I put my air conditioner away a month ago. So we're gonna get here. So if I get a little sweaty and shiny, pardon me, but it's a little warm in here. So I use this is bare branches. So I use the idea of a tree, particularly like an apple tree, a fruit tree that will both lose its leaves and will drop fruit this time of year. And I love using natural symbols when we talk about this. My spring equinox reading was the idea of like a plant growing that will later fruit and flower and fruit. Excuse me, that's the correct order. So I kind of went with the opposite here, that it has that plant from earlier this year has grown. It now has put out its leaves, it's created its fruit, and now it is preparing itself for the change of the seasons. So we have a couple of cards here on the vertical. That's the trunk of the tree and the roots. And then we get to the branches. So we have a couple for the leaves, and then we have a couple for the fruit that we harvest, and then also the fruit that we harvest, the seeds that we plant for next year. Um, so yeah, so dig into me. I pulled this yesterday, I recreated it, and I was really pleased. I really liked what it said, and I liked sort of the clear messages, kind of the overwhelming theme of it. So let's dig in. Thanks for joining me on this one. So this first one here is the roots. This is the roots. This is what sustains the organism, what sustains me, what is and sometimes the roots is what do you protect? What lies underneath? What is it that maybe no one is seeing about you that maybe isn't immediately obvious, but it is the thing that feeds your growth. And I got a big one to start. Wheel of Fortune. And you can see even this card particularly shows the changing of the seasons. So we start with the flowers in spring to the fruiting in the summer, losing the leaves, and then the holly and the berries that happen in the winter. And so the Wheel of Fortune is sometimes a tricky card in that it is, so fate and destiny and these big sort of cosmic forces that spin and turn, and how can we as tiny little ant humans deal with such massive forces that are beyond our control. The changing of the seasons, the spinning of the earth, the moon changes. I mean, these are all sort of Wheel of Fortune signs, but it also reminds us that though we cannot change big things like fate and destiny, we do have free will, and we can change how we react to them, how they affect us, what changes we make from there. And so the idea about this as what sustains me, the Wheel of Fortune, I am a highly adaptive person. I am super flexible. The Wheel of Fortune is also about the ups and downs of life and the cycles that we go through of ups and downs. And sometimes things are good and sometimes things are bad. And you have to just sort of roll with the punches. I have always been able to roll with the punches. Um, and it is one of my great things I'm proud about myself, in that I am adaptable, I am flexible. Some of that is because growing up with the some traumatic experiences growing up, you just sort of have to be. But I do take great pride in being able to go with the flow and while change is never fun and change is often scary, change is inevitable. It's part of life. In fact, the only constant. Change is the only thing that is constant in this universe. And so we must accept it, but we can also take a hand in our own fortune. So I love that is at the core of me. That's what sustains me, this idea. And then we move into the trunk of the tree. And I love this one. This made me very happy. It's the Ten of Cups. And the Ten of Cups is happiness and contentment. It's wholeness and maturity. It's emotional growth and emotional intelligence. Um, it's also a little bit about trusting intuition to be the guide in life. But so much of it is happy, healthy, wholesome relationships and perpetuating them. And some of that is wholeness within ourselves, some of that is wholeness in the relationships, and it's abundant relationships. And I love that that's being reflected here. About 8 years ago, I moved out here from New York, and I have no problem admitting it has been a hard bunch of years. Not so much the last few, fortunately. Um, and some of that was pandemic, but it was hard to make new community. It was hard relationships with family. It was hard dating and romantically. And so there was a lot of emotional growth that I went through. There's a lot of, frankly, like looking at the cups, I poured so much of my water into other people's cups and it never paid off, nor did they ever pour back into mine. And so now I love that this is the outward show of strength is a sense of emotional maturity, is a sense of emotional growth, is the idea that I take care of others and they will take care of me. It's the reciprocity of it. And even just looking at the individual card, I love that we have the little rainbow represented in that circle. I make no secret of it. I came out later in life. It was about 10 or 11 years ago when I was in my mid 30s, and it's tough. And so part of this growth, part of my emotional maturity has been coming to terms with all of that, expressing it, exploring it, being proud of who I am. So I was happy to see there is often, like the traditional Rider Smith weight, there is that rainbow in the sky. It's a very sort of technicolor ending. It's what it is, like it's the happy ever after technicolor ending. And so I love that that's being represented in this card as well. And I'll also point out if you look at both of the centers of these cards, you see the same spiral. You see the same corkscrew. And I have a thing that I talk about the corkscrew life, in that if you think of a cycle, we think we're in our cycles, and we think of cycles like a circle. And I'm going to make a TED talk about this very thing at some point in my future. But you imagine a life of circles. So you have sometimes you're happy, sometimes you're sad, sometimes it's whatever, sometimes it's the other whatever. But we have this idea of a circle. And some people are always on the up. Some people feel like they're always at the bottom. And so we feel like we get in this circle. But what that doesn't incorporate is the idea of time. And so really when you think of a circle, and I'm going to turn it to the side, but the circle spirals through time. It's a spiral. It's a corkscrew. It's that helical shape. And so we think of our lives, particularly when we're in low places, if we're in and we just feel like we're stuck in this low place and we're never going to get out of this low place, it's helpful to think of, instead of that circle and being stuck in this rut, this wheel rut, you're never going to get around. It's the hamster wheel and you're always stuck at the bottom. Imagine it through time as the spiral. So you're still moving through time. So it gives you a sense of momentum and motion. So I love that that spiral resonated both in these two vertical cards, that this as the trunk of my tree and the roots, that idea is at my core. It is both what is not visible and it is what I'm putting out there. So I love that. So then we move into the horizontal side. And so I always love a tarot spread. Everyone does it differently, of course. I love the idea of linear movement through a spread, because you begin to, which is why I also flip cards over one at a time to build the story and see where it's going and see where you're being led. Some people just throw a whole bunch of cards out and and pick out the meaning from there, and I think that's amazing. That's just not how I do it, not what I think is helpful. So anyway, that's my little soapbox. Thanks for joining me, and I'll get back to the cards now. So this one here, I'm calling this the golden leaves. So this is the idea that these are the leaves right now that either have started changing or will start changing, and they'll be beautiful gold or red or orange or yellow, and they're the things that we notice. They're the most visible part of us right now. So the idea that these leaves, the crown, the sort of golden crown of leaves that is most obvious and draws all focus to us right now. And mine is, I love it, was the Ace of Cups. So um, this is about a new love of self, a new love of others. It's a renewal source. It is a joyful card. It's around looking, it's very similar to, again, we have the ace and we have the 10 being represented, as well as the cycle. So the ace is the beginning of the cycle, the 10 is the end of the cycle, so that we have this idea of completion. And so all of the my focus right now, where all the attention is on the newness of it and the renewal. And part of this is, and again, cups, emotions, love, intuition, and the beginning of a new way of feeling. So my boyfriend is moving up here. We've been long distance for a year and a half almost, and he's moving to where I'm at. And that is a new renewal source. That is a new love of self and others. That is a new source of all of this love nearby. And um and I'm excited. And so that is where a lot of the focus is right now. That is where the golden crown of leaves is being drawn to. And so we get into this one, and it's around like, allow yourself the satisfaction of being loved. Again, as I talked about coming out later in life, it's been a journey and it took some therapy. And I always recommend people, everyone needs therapy at some point in their lives. Please get some. It will help you immensely. And I should have gotten some long before I ever did. Remember the traumatic past, the ups and the downs? Well, I thought I could just sort of, fix it myself. Didn't work out. So full full-hearted side commercial for the therapeutic process. Go check it out. If you haven't, everyone needs to. And it's okay. We all need it. We all should be getting it. Sorry. Back to the message. That commercial's over. Back to the show. Um, so yeah, this is where we are, and it's this new source, and it's a new way of feeling. It's a new chapter starting, and that is where all of the focus feels right now. So then we move from the golden leaves here into the fruit. So this is, imagine like an apple tree. This fruit has been ripening all year. Seeds that were planted early on have become this, they've been attention. And so this is the harvest fruit. What have I achieved this year? And I love this. Also, another big card. Oh, sorry, I didn't do the thing where I hold it up so you can see it. I mean, look at this beautiful thing. It also looks very much like where in the Pacific Northwest where I'm at. And it also kind of looks like the desert where my boyfriend is currently. And so that sort of mix of those two images. Um, for that. So, and now we get to the harvest fruit, and it's the high priestess. And I love this. I love this image. Again, we see water. We see this tiny little pearl floating in there, and I know this deck, and I love this deck. This is the Spacious Tarot, by the way. I love this deck. One of my favorites. And so the idea is this pool of water within the shell is reflecting the moon and the stars above, and it's also like the pearl. Um, so the high priestess, I love this. Particularly the past 6 months, I've been building and developing this tarot business, and I have been putting myself out there in this way and trusting in my own intuition. And the High Priestess is all about intuition and the inner way towards divine knowledge. It is very much the spiritual evolution. It is self-knowledge and self-sovereignty. It's like it's a private exploration of inner self. And what I love about the High Priestess, it's the energy of being. So the High Priestess is card 2. The Magician is the card that comes immediately before this. And the Magician is very much like creation and willpower and manifesting and like all of that. You can like get out there and do things. It's very much the energy of doing. The High Priestess is about the energy of being. And it is also um, the magician tends to be sort of the masculine, get out in the world and create. The high priestess has the energy, a more feminine creation of knowing thyself, a deeper dive within to understand the underlying nature of things. Um, and she also asks us to let the logical mind go, let go of the logical mind, and trust in our hearts and our intuition. And that has been my journey this year. That's been my journey with this business. That's been my journey in the past few years to really trust in myself after a lot of ups and downs. Trust that I have the love and the support and the renewal source, and to really trust myself, go within, give myself credit, um, and believe in myself in a way that I don't know if I had done before. So I love that that is what's being represented as the fruit that I've harvested, that I've worked hard, I've nourished this being, I've nourished this part of me, um, I've used organic pesticides on it. Let's say I have maintained this, and now I am harvesting this fruit, and now I get to enjoy the fruit at this time of year for the season. And so I love the high priestess. So then we move into, okay, so we had the golden leaves, the leaves that are catching all the attention, that are beautiful, that everyone notices. We'll give it a little bit of time. And these are the leaves that we shed. These are the fallen leaves. So trees put out leaves for their growth, to feed themselves, to nourish themselves, and they do it. And then when the winter turns, when the weather starts turning, when the light gets lower, it costs too much energy for trees, for deciduous trees, to maintain their leaves. They will freeze, they will frost, they will die, they will cost the central being energy and can potentially put it at risk. And so that is why trees shed their leaves. They withdraw the things that they need. They were useful tools. They needed them to grow and to further nourish itself. And when they no longer need it, they let them fall away. So this is, what can I shed? What needs to be shed right now that I no longer need? It served its purpose and now I no longer need it. And that is the Four of Coins. And this one I kind of love. Yes, the Four of Coins is about like being stingy. It's about saving for the sake of saving. It is very much scarcity mindset. It is very much we need to be secure. Let's saving for the sake. There's fear. There's paranoia. It's very much like blocking up the energy, and like I gotta hold on to my stuff. I'm gonna protect my stuff. I'm not gonna let my energy, in this case coins is the earth energy, but I'm gonna block up my energy. I'm not gonna let my energy flow because I have to protect it, because winter is coming and I have to protect it. And the irony that I mean, it's very much, I mean, look at this image here, that the there are no leaves on this tree. Now, it's a pine, those are pine cones. And of course there wouldn't be leaves on the tree, but there aren't even evergreen needles on that. So it is protecting, like you think of a pine cone. A pine cone is a pretty um, hard and armored seed coating. And like if you step on one with a bare foot, you're gonna feel it. So it's very much just, and it's covered with needles. Like, it's all about protection, protecting the seed, protecting, in this case, it's protecting the coins, protecting the wealth, protecting the energy. And I don't, yes, hard financial times this year, the past few years. And so it very much gets into a scarcity mindset. So I must hold on to what I have because it will never come again. Or I have to save and scrimp and save. And it just blocks up your flow, and it blocks up the giving and the receiving, the energy transmission that happens between all things and it just blocks it up for the sake of saving. So this is what I'm being encouraged to let go of. It's a little scary because winter is literally coming, and tough financial times, tough things out in the world. And so it feels the need to save, to scrimp, to protect everything with its shell. And I'm being encouraged to let that go, because that is impeding the flow of energy. I mean, just look at, so again, cycles, ups and downs, reminder of that. That's what sustains me. And then we get into two big water cards around the idea of flow. And then even the high priestess is, look at her, she's on the ocean, the side of the ocean. So there's a lot of water energy, a lot of intuition, a lot of inner knowledge. And that then we get to this earth, this very like earthbound pursuits. Um, and so I'm being encouraged to let that idea go. And then we move into, so we have the golden leaves that are beautiful. We have the fruit that we harvest, that we eat, and we enjoy the fruits of our labor. And then we have the leaves that must fall away to protect the organism at large, to protect the center, to protect our core. And then we get into the fruit. We also take fruit, we also to harvest the seeds to plant for next year. So this last one is the seed fruit. What are the seeds of growth to be planted for later? And I love this one because we're back. So this is the Knight of Cups. And we have this beautiful koi diving to the depths in search of this cup. And so again, we're back with cups. We are back in the realm of water. We're back in the suit of water, the emotional realm, our realm of intuition, the idea of love and relationships, and this deep. I mean, look at this little friend. He is really diving deep into the water. This is not So really getting into all of this emotional energy. So this is the idea that I will, um, the thing I need to do to plant the seeds for next year. Where am I going into the winter and beyond? These are what am I planting perhaps for next spring? And so it's the Knight of Cups. Knight is always questing energy. Knight is always putting that energy out, whatever that suit is. In this case, it's water, putting that out into the world on a quest. So here we have a quest to find this cup in the deeper depths. So the Knight of Coins, Cups, excuse me, Knight of Cups is a seeker of the heart. This is, again, back to this sort of emotional energy, this emotional growth. Um, it invites to delve into the creative. I have been wanting some stability for a couple of years around finances, around relationships, to be able to get back into writing, to get back into, I'm hoping to, um, be a speaker, keynote speeches, etc. I mentioned perhaps at the beginning when I'm talking the spiral thing around the TED Talk. I am looking forward to putting my energy toward those pursuits again. I I believe what I have to say, it is important, and I want to be able to begin expressing it. But part of it is the idea of scarcity and uncertainty. Some of that is being managed or is being ignored because I have this beautiful partner coming to join me in my locality. And we're going to move forward in a way that is different. Will there be ups and downs? Sure, life is full of ups and downs, but I know I'm adaptable and I know I can handle whatever ups and downs are coming because I know about the cycles. And so I love the idea that some of these are, like High Priestess very much being. I mean, that shell and that pearl, they aren't going anywhere. This is around rejuvenation. These two are rejuvenating and filling cups and the cycle. This is about putting energy back out into the world. And it's doing it from this emotionally grounded place of intuition and creativity. Pay attention to dreams. There's a lot of dream energy involved with the water suits. So as we look at this spread, it is really so half of the spread are cups. Half of this is about my emotional world, my world of intuition. And then again, it's being echoed with High Priestess in a really big way. The High Priestess is all about intuition, the inner way. Um, and so we are really acknowledging the ups and downs of life are always going to happen. I also kind of love that we have this echo of these bare branches again. So when I see echoes like that, again, this is how I work a spread. Like, what are the images telling me? How do they connect to each other? And then in that connection, what can I draw from that? Well, that's going to tell me that right now, my cycle, yes, my cycle has been in this place. That's okay. It will be again. That's part of cycles. We feel that. But really, this is where my outward strength is right now. This is where my immediate focus is. I can take pride in the accomplishments of what I've achieved here. This can go away so that I can begin pursuing this again. And I also just want to point out, because I love the images and I love the artwork on this deck. It's one of my favorite decks. It is such a kind, um, compassionate deck. It is colorful. It is what, but here's what I also like to pay attention to. The way that these cards are spread out, I don't know if you can see on the tiny image. If I hold it up, it won't quite work. So if you see the line of the hillside here with the Ace of Cups, see how this line here, let me get a pen, maybe that'll. So the line is continued on, and then it's met by the shoreline of the High Priestess, which leads right into the branch of the tree. So you see these three cards, if it was black and white, if you look at these three cards, I'm gonna hold it up, maybe it'll be a little clearer that way. So that was sort of how I designed. I mean, the spread was designed in that way, but do you see that wave, that up down wave energy that's being created? It's all connecting. And so I point that out because when you're reading for yourself, or if you would be gracious enough to give me your time so that I may read for you, if you book a session, and I would love it if you did. Um, I look for those things too. Yes, it is important to, this card means that, and this card means that. And how is that relevant to your life? And does that resonate with you? These all do resonate with me. Um, and and I love it. You know, I've got a nice picture of this. I'm going to refer to it later on, particularly as I go on. But I love the simplicity of that this is my life right now, and that we see this wave, and this I just caught this right now. We see this wave line that's being here, just like the waves of water. Again, water is such a big part of this spread. And so that tells me going into this fall, this changing point of the seasons, that I'm really going to focus on my emotional world, trust my intuition, get creative, listen to my dreams, not even listen to my dreams, but also dream more. So much energy the past few years has been devoted to this feeling here: scarcity, protecting, saving for the sake of saving, stinginess, almost like hoarding resources. And that this is the thing out of this beautiful spread of cycles, ups and downs, cycles, but the flow of water, the flow of love and resources into this new source of water, into intuition, into this explorer of water. The idea of all like this earth, it just stops the flow. It stops all of that flow. And so that is the biggest sort of, and the easiest theme I will take from this and I will use to remind me throughout the next block of time, throughout the next season, even into the spring, to remember of the cycles, but also to remember that remember that waves come in and waves come out, and waves come in and waves come out, and they crash. And sometimes they come in heavy and they crash hard, and sometimes they just come in gently and they remind us. And so that's where my world's going to be in the emotional world. Sorry, I could just keep going on and on and on and on and on and on about this. But if you have stayed with me this long, I hope you've enjoyed this process. I hope you have enjoyed this spread as well. And I hope I will see you in the future for reading for yourself because and I'm hoping if you're watching this and if you know anything like and I'm hoping you're picking up things yourself about it and you're like, oh Blaine, you missed this, you missed that. Because I love it. We all interpret things differently, and everyone's like we get to layer our interpretations on top of each other. The ultimate goal is to celebrate ourselves, honor who we are in this moment, and how do we move forward into our future with this beautiful, with the waves that crash and come and all of that water. So if you made it this far, thank you all. There will be more of these. Please like, subscribe, send people who would be interested in this. I hope I'll see you on my next live. If you haven't followed me, go to my website, blainepatricksmith.com if you want to book a session. Follow me on socials. I'm at Blaine Reads Tarot on the YouTube, Insta, and TikTok. Um, so thank you, everyone. Thank you. And happy fall. I hope you all can enjoy the changing leaves and the harvest of the season. So bye all. See clearly, friends.